previous lessons, we've learned to solo with just one simple 3-2 pattern on one string. And then in lesson 2, I showed you how to find that 3-2 pattern all over the fretboard. And now what we want to do is use that, again, very simple 3-2 pattern to simply learn the major and minor scales. And that's lesson 3. Now, if you want to just figure out where all of the notes of the particular major scale are, it's really simple. You just add 2 notes to it, because 5 is pentatonic and there's 2 other notes in the major scale. And that's the 4th and the 7th note in the full C major scale, or the, in this case, the B and the F note. And you'll notice, and it's a really cool pattern thing here, is that the additional notes for the C major scale are always those notes just directly on the left and the right of that 3 part of that 3-2 pattern. They're always there. So no matter where you go on the fretboard, those 2 additional notes are always just on the right-hand side, if you will, and the left-hand side of that 3-note pattern. So it's really easy to remember. And then there's one other kind of useful note to remember, especially if you're doing solos, is that there is a what we call a blues note. And that blues note is always in between the 2nd and 3rd note of that 3-note pattern. And you can see these symmetrical boxes, which are all the root 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th of any major scale. So you can easily see that if you know this 3-2 pattern, you can find all sorts of notes very simply by just remembering when you're at a 3 where you need to go. And these boxes are all over the fretboard. And the same thing applies to the minor scale, and in this case the A minor scale. You need 2 more notes, and interestingly, even in the minor scale, these 2 notes are in exactly the same spot. They're on both on the left and the right hand side of those 3 notes that are all in that pattern. Again, same notes, because A minor scale and C are the same, or they're the same notes. And the cool thing is, again, is that the pattern is exactly the same. There's also the same blues note, and that blues note is in exactly the same thing. It's right in between the 2nd, 3rd note of that 3-note pattern. And as with the major scale, there are boxes of notes that are very similar all the way across the fretboard, except in this case it's root 2, flat 3, 4, 5, and flat 6th. And those patterns are all over the fretboard. As we go further in this lesson, is show you how to navigate between all of these boxes in a really, really simple fashion. So, sort of recapping, the major scale is exactly laid out in the top part of this slide, and it's, again, a 3-2 pattern, root 2, 3, 5, 6. And then on either side of that 3 pattern are 2 other notes, the 4th and the 7th, and that makes up the entire major scale. The minor scale is, again, a 3-2 pattern with the notes directly on both sides making up the rest of that scale. Every scale is made up of half and whole steps, and with the major scale, if you can remember that 3-2 pattern, it's fairly simple to remember when something is a whole or a half step. So in the case of a major scale, it goes whole step, half step between the 3rd and the 4th, and then a whole step, you can see the spaces, and then a whole step, and then a whole step, and then finally a half step. In the case of a minor scale, it's whole, and then you can see a half between the 2nd and the flat 3rd, and then whole, half between the 5 and the 6, and then a whole again. So it's just, if you know this 3-2 pattern, it makes it really easy to visualize where all the notes of a major scale are, where the notes of the pentatonic scale are, and whether or not it's a half or a whole step.